What's up everyone, Ben with the BTC Sessions here, and this is your daily session.
Hodl that Bitcoin.
Before we dive in, just a couple of quick things for you. Of course, shout out to sponsors of the show, Ledn.io. This is where you can use your Bitcoin for a couple of different services, one of which is to use it as collateral to obtain a Canadian or US dollar loan. The second of which is a Bitcoin savings account where you can deposit your Bitcoin and earn interest on it paid in Bitcoin. If you'd like to check out either of those things, there's a link down below. And if you opt to get a loan, you'll actually earn an additional $50 worth of Bitcoin into your account. Secondly, if you're into Bitcoin, then privacy is of course important. One of the things that I use is called NordVPN. This I use on my phone and my laptop. It masks my IP address, it helps encrypt my browsing data, and it has the added benefit of unlocking geo-blocked content. So if you want to check that out, there's also a link down below where you can get that service for only $3 a month. And with that, let's dive into the news. Well, it looks like Craig Wright is back in the news again, and what else would it be for? Well, it's that he's a giant fraud. This time, there are some documents that dropped in relation to the ongoing court case down in Florida, and this time it turns out that he has in some way, it appears, doctored some alleged communications between him and the David Kleiman in regards to the Tulip Trust where they would be storing their Bitcoin, and a large part of the reason why he's saying he doesn't have access to that Bitcoin to give back to the Kleiman estate. Now the problem with this is that many of these messages are dated from October 2012. Well, they got the creator of BitMessage to come in and testify, and turns out that the entire program didn't even exist publicly until November of 2012. This is just the latest rather in a long line of fraudulent claims by Craig Wright. Now you may be wondering why the hell the price of BSV is up on the day after this news. Well, that's just because Craig Wright somehow weaseled his way onto the news show Cheddar, and just spouted more of the same BS that he is indeed that he is indeed Satoshi, and that he created Bitcoin, and that he'll prove it in court, which to date has really not been the case. So I'm sure we'll continue to see lots of this, and even if Craig Wright ends up behind bars for all of the BS that he spewed and all of the lying on the stand that he's done, I don't imagine that a lot of his fans will really see much of a difference, and it will probably be a grand conspiracy to discredit him rather than just a guy who likes to lie. But I guess we'll just have to watch that play out. The countdown is on for the approvals and or denials of a couple Bitcoin ETFs. The final decisions have been put off, since inception, but we're coming to the end game here, and we will either get a big yes or a big no from the CFTC. The reason being is that they have a limit of how long they can actually put off a decision before having to make one, and those deadlines are coming up for VanEck and Bitwise. Those dates would be October 13th and October 18th. There is another ETF that comes up for review at the end of September, but that one can be put off to a later date, as I imagine it will be, as all others have been. Now, we first had an ETF denial in early 2017. I would not be surprised to see more of the same. I really think that the SEC, or rather the CFTC, is going to continue to put these things off as long as they can, even if it means having to deny them. That said, if there is a surprise verdict that they can go ahead, it could be some rocket fuel. But I guess we'll see. It would surprise the hell out of me if these things got approved in October, but I will happily be wrong if that happens. Now, in the long term, does this really matter? I think so, yes, because this sets the precedent that regular people can have access to Bitcoin as the exposure to price in their part of their portfolio without having to actually custody it themselves. Now, this is a little bit contrary to the ethos of Bitcoin and not needing a middleman, but some people literally just want exposure to price, and if that's how they want to do it, then I guess more power to them, and more power to the people that want to basically provide that service. So we will have to wait until October 13th and then 18th to see, but my guess is whatever happens on the 13th will be repeated on the 18th, of course. Nevada has passed new regulations that require cryptocurrency ATMs to be regulated and to be classified as money transmitters. This license includes a $5,000 surety bond, which is essentially insurance for customers in case the business goes belly up. I can't say I'm super surprised at this move, given that in Canada here, we have more or less sweeping regulation across the country that kind of sets the precedent for those types of things. In a couple of years here, the same deal will happen, where if you're running Bitcoin ATMs, you will need to be an MSB, a money service business. You will require a license, and there will be certain restrictions in place as far as requiring certain amounts of ID depending on the amount of money that you are moving. So I expect to see more of this across the US, across the world. For people that do not want to partake in this type of thing, there are always other options. There are always peer-to-peer options, and that is indeed the beauty of something like Bitcoin. You can transact peer-to-peer with no middleman necessary if you decide to do so. Now, on the privacy note, it is, of course, interesting given that a lot of people tend to use Bitcoin ATMs, one, for convenience, but two, because they believe they're being private. At least that's the case here in Canada for a lot of people I know. However, with these new regulations, the Bitcoin ATMs are no more private than using an online exchange, which is also regulated. So I have to wonder if the sometimes exorbitant fees on these Bitcoin ATMs will have to come down in order to match at least somewhat closer to the fees that you would pay on a regular online exchange. I imagine that will have to be the case, and you'll see something more in line with what you might see at a regular cash ATM, maybe with a slightly higher fee. But I guess we will see over time. Finally, I wanted to let you guys know about a couple of different events I will be at in the coming month or so. Number one is next Tuesday, August 20th, I'm going to be at the YYC Bitcoin meetup here in Calgary. So if you're around town and you want to come out to that, be sure to hit up the meetup group. I will link to that down below. And secondly, I'm very excited to be headed to Riga, Latvia for Baltic Honeybadger with myself and the team from Bull Bitcoin. So it's going to be a hell of a trip. I'm very excited because this is one of the conferences that I think is really top tier in the space, and I hear that there's going to be a lot of awesome people there to chat with and learn. So I will see you all there, whoever's going. If you are going, let me know in the comments down below, and maybe we can grab a beer. And with that, I'm going to sign off. If you're new here, of course, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and share. You can also help the show in another way by hitting up either of the sponsors I mentioned, NordVPN or Ledn. Those links are down below. And if you really liked what you saw, you can always drop me a Bitcoin Lightning Network tip at my tippin.me page. And with that, I am out. I will see you guys tomorrow for your daily session.